Welcome again to It Doesn't Take a Genius, conversation with introspective perspectives and pithy points of view. Here are your hosts, my friends, Max and Marty.
I think that's Mark and Mike.
Yeah, whatever.
Ramsey!
Marshall, I hope you don't mind this, that I have a hotel stay right now. So I've got my hotel background blocked off with this lovely picture, but it's not just because I'm in a hotel that I'm using this, Mike. Do you know what this is?
It's a mountain, and if memory serves my geography, it looks like Denali.
What a memory you have. Congratulations. Yes,
Thank
Mount
you.
McKinley, formerly Mount McKinley, now Denali, highest mountain peak in North Carolina, North America, actually. It even has the title for the entire continent. And I took this picture, and I want to tell you, you can see it's kind of crooked, but what I love about this picture is the story behind it. I'm standing there with a buddy of mine who lived in Alaska, and we're on the side of the interstate, and it just says Denali Scenic Overlook, right? And Denali means the big one. I mean, so I'm thinking, I've got to get to the angle where I can see which of these mountain peaks it is, and you can see how many mountain peaks there are. But for the folks that can't see it at home, basically, there's sort of a weather system up above the mountain peaks.
Mm-hmm.
That's Denali. It's that much bigger than the other mountain peaks, that it has its own weather system, essentially. So it looks like a huge cloud bank behind all the mountains. No, it's Denali behind all the mountains. It's just that much bigger.
That's crazy. So what does so the word Denali means the big one?
Yeah.
Well, as a sidebar, I just want everybody to know, I want to go on record. I want to be big enough that I have my own private plane and my own weather system. It's a life goal.
Good luck.
Yeah, that wasn't very encouraging.
Right.
All right, so we're talking about the big one, right? And behind me, I have the word
why.
And so this is one of those words that comes up, and we often think of it as a question. But for today's podcast, we're thinking of it as the explanation behind what you do. Everybody does or doesn't do something for a reason.
Right.
And until you understand the why, you will never understand why they took that action.
Yeah.
Wonderful quote from George Carlin, I believe. And he said, "Those who dance are considered insane by those who can't hear the music." And so, yeah, it's the same thing. If I don't know your why, I have a hard time guessing why what it is that's caused you to act the way you did. And more importantly, as a leader, if I don't understand the leader's why, then it's very hard for me as a team member to make decisions that would coincide with their wishes, with their whys, with their values.
Yeah. And think about how often this shows up in our work, Mike, because, and I guarantee you that our listeners, both of them, have dealt with this, where, they found themselves saying, I need my employees to perform at a higher level. I need my coworkers to perform at a higher level. Why won't they just do what I'm telling them? I've told them what to do. Why don't they just do it?
Oh yeah, it manifests itself a couple of different ways. One way, I can tell if I pull up to a place of business, I can tell if it's a commitment place or a compliance place. I can tell if the leader
commitment versus compliance.
Yeah. So commitment versus compliance. So compliance is, I do it because you told me to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why we're doing it this way. You just told me to do it that way. Commitment is, I understand what you want me to do, and I understand why that you want me to do it that way, and I believe in it.
Yeah, bought into it.
I've bought into it. I've engaged with your why.
Yeah.
So if you pull up to a store that is a commitment store, before you get out of your car, you can tell that the head cheese, the big guy, is not there that day. You see employees parking in customer parking. You see people not wearing the right uniform. You see people, engaging in behaviors that if the main guy is there, they don't do.
Yeah.
And they always get a big kick out of it. I walk up and I go, hey, so-and-so not here today? And I go, nope. How'd you know? It's like, I can't tell you. But a commitment store, if the leaders explain their why, they've got buy-in for the why, there's engagement for the why, you have no idea if the leader's there or not, because people continue to do the right thing because it's the right thing and they believe in it. And so it doesn't matter if he or she is there or not there that day.
Right. And that's going to require slowing down to take the time to explain that why to the folks involved. But I don't want to jump the gun here. What makes this why so powerful? I know we've talked about Simon Sinek and his Golden Circle. It's a really cool video if you've never seen it. It's a great book. But he uses the phrase, and he's talking in a sales role. People don't buy what you do; they buy why you do it. And it sounds like a little bit here that you're talking about that it's not that customers, but employees don't buy what we do around here, but they will buy into why we do it if you take the time to explain that to them.
Well, yeah, and Simon goes on to say, he says your goal from a customer standpoint is to not attract everybody who wants what it is that you have to offer. You want people who believe what you believe.
Yeah.
And to me, this is even more important when you're talking about employees. I don't need somebody who wants to do the task that we have to do. I need somebody who will do that task, but who also believes what we believe.
Right.
And so because that's where the energy, the magic comes from, and the high level of engagement, the people who will take the hill, who will give their blood and sweat for you, and for the company and for the cause, because they believe in not only what we're doing but why we're doing it.
Well, the action item is already really clear. Thanks for spelling this out. We need to fire all the people in our ranks that just don't buy into our why right now. When they just don't drink the Kool-Aid, they don't get it. Purge. The Great Awakening, right?
Oh,
that's where we're going with this.
That's a great idea. Wait, no, what if the reason they don't know the why is because I didn't explain it very well?
Wow. Yeah. Right.
So one of the things that we run into with managers, one of the things that we'll do is we'll just ask them their why.
Mm-hmm.
And some managers are not very adept at explaining it, putting it into the words. They know, they say it's like jazz. You know it when you hear it. My why is, it when you see it. We have to get more deliberate, and it's not something that, especially as boomer managers, we're trained to do. Our upbringing was your parents told you to do something, and if you ask why, then they said, because I said so.
Right.
And then there was the threat of the physical violence. You'll do it or I'll swat your butt. So this whole taking, like you're saying, this is an investment.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to invest time in thinking through my why, thinking how I will share my why. And then I have to invest time in explaining not only what I'd like for you to do, but why we're going to do it this way.
Yeah.
That's a whole lot of time, but to me, it's an investment. If I invest that time up front and the extra energy it takes to explain the why, I should get a dividend back for however long that employee is there. Yep. And so I'll spend a lot less time following up, correcting mistakes and things like that, because they will be doing what we've all agreed to do, and they'll know why we do it, and they'll be able to apply that why in situations that we haven't even talked about. But they'll know, they'll be able to guess what the right answer is.
Yeah, I was going to say, you won't have to babysit them or police them. They'll be able to make better decisions that are in line with what you're trying to accomplish as an organization. I mean, there are all sorts of downstream benefits from this. And if you find yourself beating your head against the wall, continually going over the same thing with your employees over and over again, maybe take a break and slow down and see if you can understand for yourself your why, and then explain it to your people.
Right. And a couple of warning signs. So one of the things I look for, if I'm in a manager's meeting with a bunch of managers and we're there for an hour, how many interruptions do they get? How many times does a team member stick his head, hey, so-and-so's here and need your help, I need an answer, and
Right.
you can tell by the amount of disruption how well the managers have explained the why and how much buy-in and engagement they have for the why. My other red flag that I look for is this happens all the time. So a manager and I will go off site for a little coaching or lunch or something. We'll come back. Team member will stick his head in the door while we're in the office wrapping up, and they'll go, "Hey, while you were gone, Mrs. So and so came in, and this was their problem, and here's what I did." And the manager will have only one of two responses. The first response is, "When I'm done talking to Mike, we'll talk," and then they'll roll their eyes, or
Right.
they'll say, "Oh, you handled it just like I would if I'd have been here. Sounds great. Keep moving forward." And so
Yeah.
the first response tells me that the employee has seen them respond to customers, respond to situations, but they don't know why, they don't know the why. They don't know all the factors that the manager weighed in order to come to the course of action that needed to be taking place. The second
Yeah.
manager, the one where the employee guessed correctly, he didn't guess correctly. He knew the why. He applied that why to this situation, and in turn did pretty much what the organization and the leader would have done had they been present.
Yeah. Love that. And you mentioned boomers earlier, and hey, there's really something to be said for, being a good soldier and respecting your superior officers, so to speak. But I think you pointed out also that a lot of those folks of the boomer generation did it out of compliance, and there wasn't necessarily buy-in. And what frustrates the boomer manager and the folks that have been trained by boomer managers and are like them, Generation X and so on, is these millennials. They keep asking why. It's so frustrating. But I think you and I have both come to the conclusion it's not that boomers suddenly are asking questions that the rest of the generations didn't think of. It's that the boomers are willing to ask the questions. And so now the whole situation's kind of on Front Street. We're going to know very quickly if you've thought through your why and are willing to explain it to people, because some of those questions will be answered or they won't. And you'll see millennial employees start to peel off as they realize that this is a place where they're not going to explain it to you. This place will never make sense because they're not willing to take time to tell you. Let's go find a place that I can buy into.
Definitely, definitely, and you see that the boomer team member would just be quiet, be frustrated, but stay.
Right.
The millennial gets frustrated and leaves.
Yeah.
They're just more apt to act upon their feelings. Right? This place doesn't fit me. I'm not growing and learning here, and nobody's explaining anything. I'll go find some place that will.
Right.
And they'll do it in a heartbeat, and they'll leave good jobs.
Right. Right.
And just leave because they're not willing to live their lives like that.
And you say the boomers, I mean, they don't leave, but our friend Chris Hunsaker has said, they might quit and draw a paycheck still. Like they've checked out in all other ways except the fact that they didn't leave.
Yeah, I quit in place.
All right.
Yeah. So and we don't want that. We don't want that. We don't. We want full engagement. So think about the simplest thing. Right? You see these examples where the customer is standing in front of the leader, and the leader takes care of them and does certain things. It's incumbent upon the leader to explain what were the variables that went into that. Because you had a customer in a similar situation and you didn't do some of the things you did for this customer. I'm completely confused, and I will not do anything if I encounter that situation, because it looked the same on the surface, but you responded in two different ways. And come to find out, this customer has been with us 25 years. They've spent X number of hundreds of thousands of dollars with us, and they're loyal, and they send us customers. So we do this. This customer, shops us. They're not loyal to us. We'll take care of them, but not to the extent we're taking. So it's all these factors. I weighed in loyalty. I weighed in referrals. I weighed in relationship. This is why This is why I did this for this customer. It's that additional explanation that will allow the team member to take the course of action that you hope they would take.
Yeah, I love that. I had a colleague who got a pretty big promotion, and they thought it was, well, they need me here just to fill a spot, and now they realize that they're actually there being groomed to go to the next level, to really take over a sort of a business unit, if you will. And how they got that message, and the reason that they're so bought in to this organization now, is that the leader would, for instance, send an email and then call this friend of mine and explain, here's why I did that. It's as simple as that. But that kind of thing was what convinced this person that, I'm being invested in. I'm being invested in. And that's maybe a way to think about this whole concept. All the stuff we've been talking about around the why is an investment in the future, in terms of employee engagement, employee longevity, in terms of your freaking sanity of not having to keep going back to the well over and over and over again on the same habitual employee performance issues.
Yeah. We can sum up the whole thing with that old saying that the true mark of a great leader is not how his team does when he's there, it's how his team performs when he's not there.
Yeah.
And the cornerstone of all of that would be the why, right? Explaining the why, telling the why in such a way that your team members buy into it, and they commit to doing the right thing.
So, Mike, I'll suggest, maybe I'm crazy here and we can edit this out, but maybe we put a stop right now in this conversation and pick up in a part 2, which is developing stories around your why, having a good story to tell to explain the why. Because I know there are people who are listening to this who will not remember most of the facts that we traded back and forth about the why. They'll remember the story about Denali and me standing on the side of the road, not being able to tell which peak was the one that was the big one. And that's the power of story that goes along with this power of why. So maybe we come back in a second episode and talk about that.
Was that a cliffhanger, a teaser?
I guess it was.
Ever since we got the new logo with the high production value, I feel like we've become more, media astute.
Right.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah, that was good. Yeah, we will take this up in a future episode. To make sure you don't miss a future episode, hit that subscribe button below, and don't forget to punch the thumbs up button so more people see Max and Marty.
Well done.
Mark and Mike, whoever. Let's see what our announcer.
Roll credits.
Yeah, roll credits. We need credit. That reminds me, we need credits.
And that's a wrap. It doesn't take a genius. The blog dedicated to reducing the irreducible. Next time, prime numbers. What makes them so special? Join us then, and thanks for listening.
That's good enough.